wanted to do this one because this has been coming up in coaching all the time, and I haven't really highlighted this issue, and it's so common. It's like it happens all the time, especially in the beginning when I'm coaching people. So I was like, we have to cover this. So let's just go ahead and cover it. Okay. So, oops, that definitely, there we go. So, most people think that the main problem when people come to me, they say the problem is our communication. We just don't communicate well. But we're going to talk about tonight is what happens before communication even begins. And that's because arguments don't start with words, they start with interpretations. Okay. So, you could be having a conversation and it turns into an argument. So, people believe that we just need better communication. We need better communication skills. We need somebody to teach us how to communicate. Or they think that my partner just doesn't listen, or they think I just don't say things the right way. But, even perfect communication, that won't fix any of that if the interpretation is off. If somebody is just committed to seeing the worst, committed to seeing attack where there wasn't meant any attack, right? This is where fights are actually started, right? So this is basically the entire workshop in one line. What happens is the event. What you make it mean is, right, you assign meaning, and that creates an emotion, and then that emotion drives behavior. So most people skip over the meaning step completely. They just breeze right past it. Like something happens, their brain interprets it, and then they don't even stop there. They don't check that interpretation at the toll booth of interpretation checking to be like, hold on, did I assume something? Did I make this mean something that it doesn't have to mean or may not have meant? They just breeze right past that and they go into the reaction, right? So, for an example, a partner says, did you remember to call the plumber? And their partner, instead of hearing, did you remember to call the plumber? The partner hears, you're irresponsible. So, the words are neutral, but the interpretation is personal. And that interpretation creates defensiveness, irritation, and oftentimes shutdown. So, another example of this, I have a client who just got divorced, papers served to him, and he heard through the grapevine that his wife posted a screenshot of their text conversation on social media. And that is neutral. I know it doesn't seem neutral, but he interpreted that to mean something about him, that she's trying to hurt me, that this is an attack. This is about me. He interpreted it as about him. And so it caused him to lose his peace. It caused him to feel a lot of anger, a lot of rage, and it caused him to really swirl in thoughts and feelings the whole workday. And he lost his control over, he lost access to the present moment. And he didn't really like that. So when we really looked at it, I helped him to see maybe how he could interpret it where he doesn't center himself in it. He doesn't see it as about him. And we were able to come up with that. And I'll move on to that. But it helped him to see it so he didn't react so much and didn't lose his peace. So that is the number one pattern that causes arguments, is taking things personally, is seeing another person's behaviors and words as meaning something about me. And the truth, the whole truth, is that it's rarely about you. So I had another, that happened again with a new client this week. What was it that he took personally? Oh, yeah. So they were at dinner with his folks for Easter, and his girlfriend, committed girlfriend, said something kind of snarky, kind of revealing about their relationship and how they've been kind of having problems in front of his parents. And he interpreted that as meaning something about him, that she is trying to hurt me. She is trying to embarrass me. She's trying to humiliate me. All of those interpretations have one thing in common, and it's all me. about me. So that's what causes arguments, and that's what makes things really go off the rails. So, why does this feel so real? Well, your brain is wired to fill in the gaps. Brains hate missing information, absolutely can't stand it. So when there are gaps in information, your brain fills them in with assumptions. And most of us have heard the little saying about assumptions that it makes everybody an ass, right? So your brain is wired to fill in those gaps, to protect you, and to look for threat, right? We have the negativity bias built into all of us. And so your overarching beliefs about yourself and your habitual thought patterns tend to fill in those gaps in information when you aren't quite sure about somebody's meaning when they say something. So your brain is constantly predicting, interpreting, scanning for danger, and especially in close relationships, this is happening because close relationships feel like high stakes. And so because of the high stakes, your brain is asking, is this safe or is this a threat? So common meanings that we assign to other people's behavior. When your partner does something, you might make it mean, I'm not respected, I'm not important, I'm not enough, they don't care about me, or even I see a lot is I'm being controlled or they're trying to control me. So all of these interpretations are identity level interpretations. And that's why reactions feel so intense. It's not about the dishes or the tone or the timing even. It's about what it means about you. Okay. So, and why does this escalate fights? Is because when meaning feels like an attack, you react to the story, not the situation. Okay. So, your partner is responding to it, what they said, what they actually said, and you're responding to what you think that they meant. Like you're reading into what you think that they meant. And now you're in two completely different conversations, or what I often call two parallel perceptual realities. We're not even in the same universe, same conversation. So the shift is the shift in your perception can be that your partner's behavior does not automatically mean something about you. And this is the core reframe, right? Most people operate like they did X, therefore it means Y about me. But that's really not reality. That's interpretation. And when you loosen that link just a little, you create some space. And I love creating space. Space is where healing happens, right? So then we leave space for what they said, what might it actually mean. So instead of they're disrespecting me, it might mean they're distracted, they're stressed, which is usually the case. They're just unaware. They're kind of running on autopilot. They communicate differently, or they're just not thinking about it in the same way that you are, right? Now, this is not about excusing behavior at all. This is about expanding interpretation, to see things differently, to leave room for multiple ways of seeing something, which means you have to leave room for your first interpretation, the one that makes it about me, being inaccurate, which means humility. We have to have the humility to look at our first interpretation and question it and go, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe, could be right, but maybe not. Let me gather some information. Because rigid interpretations create reactivity, and a flexible mind creates a regulated body. And, there is really no discernible difference between mental flexibility and mental health. People with rigid mentalities are not mentally well. So we want to really leave that space for flexibility, right? So one of my mentors taught me, where there's space, there's movement, flexibility. Where there's movement, there's energy, the flow of energy. And where there's energy, disease cannot exist. And disease can mean dysfunction in a relationship too, right? Dis-ease. So we want to leave space for movement and flexibility. So what are the costs of taking it personally? Well, when everything feels personal, you become defensive, you escalate really quickly, you definitely stop listening, you create distance, emotional distance, and it's exhausting. for both people. And over time, this creates resentment, disconnection, loss of emotional safety in the relationship, and not because of what's happening, but because of how it's being interpreted. So the skill, like we were saying before, to create space before reacting to the tension in your body that comes as a result of your first interpretation, take a beat. Take a little pause, just a little pause. You don't need to immediately believe something different. You just need to interrupt your certainty. Just a tiny little interrupt and ask, what else could this mean? So even a tiny, like 10% shift in interpretation changes your emotional response. And that can mean that the biggest difference between, a huge blow up argument and a nothing burger, right? Pause, interrupt that certainty, take a beat, and then ask, what else could this mean? And this means staying on the fence. And a lot of brains, like I said, brains don't like unanswered questions, and brains don't like being in that uncertainty of like, where do I get to categorize this person, this conversation, this situation? Threat, non-threat. I don't like being on the fence where I haven't decided yet if this is a threat or a non-threat, or if this is a good person or a bad person. Like, brains really don't like that. And so it's a skill that we have to build of sitting in the tension of that uncertainty and not yet springing to deciding certainly I know exactly what this is. I know exactly what this means. We have to just hold back and go, well, I might not know exactly what this means. What else could this mean? So a better response then, when we pause, instead of being defensive or reactive, we get curious. And curiosity is a much more open emotional state, right? It's open to gathering information. Defensiveness is closed and certainty is closed. I know what's going on here, so I don't need to gather any information, right? So curiosity is open. And this would sound like, when you said that, I noticed that I took it as criticism, where I told myself a story that you meant XYZ. Is that what you meant? And this is an amazing response. It's so great because it does three things. It opens your interpretation, it owns your interpretation. It invites clarity, and it prevents escalation. This is emotional maturity. Okay. So, I had to learn this a lot in my marriage. Like, when I thought maybe it was an attack, I had to teach myself to just, hold on. Maybe it was. I'm going to ask for clarity. And sometimes it was, which is so interesting. When I asked for clarity, I gave it an opportunity for them to check in to see if he unknowingly was taking a dig, right? And in that instance, if the other person has integrity, they're not going to lie, right? And they're going to say, actually, yeah, I guess that kind of was a dig. Yeah, sorry, right? So sometimes it really is, but it gives them an opportunity to maybe correct before it really just gets going and just blows up. And then maybe it wasn't a dig, right? So you can give them a chance to go, no, sorry, that was not my meaning. Let me see if I can choose some better language here. And then they can communicate their meaning. So just a quick insight about this. Arguments aren't just about what was said, right? They're about what was assumed or what was interpreted. So if you can change this one pattern, you can change the tone of your conversations, the speed of escalation, the level of connection, and you can really make a huge shift in your relationships with just this one skill. And if you think about it, I point this out to my clients who I know are courageous enough to really face some hard truths. When I pointed out that when we investigate what's going on in their mind, what caused their frustration, what caused their anger, right? We find out that the interpretation was actually making it about them. I asked them, what kind of a person makes everything about them? And usually they smile and they're like, somebody who's really selfish and immature. And I'm like, well, maybe, right? And they're like, yeah, shoot. Yeah, somebody who's all about themselves would very consistently interpret other people's behavior in the context of them instead of the full context of what's going on. And that's a real beautiful opportunity to take responsibility and start saying, okay, why would I do that? Why would I center myself in everything? Why would I make me the focus of everything? Why would I do that? Where did my development get arrested? Because, you know, I live with teenagers and that's their brain. That's what they do. Everything is about them. Because and as it should be, naturally, because that's the teenage brain, right? It's being reconstructed. They're having a whole complete role model or remodel rather, and that's their brain. And hopefully they finish that remodel and they grow out of that selfish phase. But some people just don't. They get stuck there, and that's where it happens, that they just interpret everything through the lens of this is about me. So just one final thought. You know, you're not always reacting to your partner. You're reacting to what you believe their behavior means about you if you are in this pattern of taking things personally. So just let that land, because this is really where your power is. Because if meaning is the driver, then meaning is also the lever for change. So, you know, when people feel accused, they defend. When people feel understood, they cooperate. And you really can't solve any problems with someone who feels attacked, because when we go into fight or flight, our thinking brain just shuts down. That part of our brain that actively problem solves just cannot come to the party, and it's just defend. And so the problem can't be solved anyways. So clarity creates safety, right? And then safety allows for problem solving. So leaning in with curiosity to get clarity really communicates, hey, I'm here to be safe. And that allows for problem solving, because their problem solving part of their brain can actually stay online. So, you know, and this is one of those topics that sounds really simple. It seems really straightforward, but it shows up in really complex ways in real relationships. So I'm happy to workshop with real life examples with anybody here in attendance. So if there's any questions that you have, or you want to just talk about this and how you've experienced it, please raise your hand and ask to speak, and we can just dialogue from there. So if anybody has that question, you can click on this, it's like a little hand icon that looks like this. Hi.
Hi.
Yay, it's working.
So I guess one of the things that comes up for us a lot is hearing things based on past experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So reacting based on how the situation's gone in the past. So any
That's a hard one.
advice on how to
from
that, or because you can't erase your memory of every time.
Totally.
Each time I've asked this in the past, or this situation's come up, this is how it's progressed.
Yeah, totally. And that is a road, right? So you've gotten there because there's been a pattern that's been you got ruts, right? And it's been well worn. And in order to cancel out any pattern in one direction, you got to do the same pattern in the other direction, right? So it's not just a wave the wand, it's all better. Oh gosh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? So just as steadily and incrementally that you got where you are, you've got to steadily and incrementally go in the other direction. And the hardest part is just swinging that cruise ship around to go the other direction. Like you haven't even started moving the other direction yet. You just have to like turn it around. That's the hardest part, right? But then moving in the other direction. So I talked about in the teaching portion about leaving space, right? A little pause. Well, I learned that I also had to leave space in my mind, in my mental model of my spouse, for him to show up differently, for him to show me, like give him a little chance to show me, not to tell me, right? I'm not going to believe promises. We don't believe people's words. We believe action, right? Give him a chance to show me that he's going to show up differently, to surprise me, really. And every time, not every time, but most of the time, once he finally got it, like, okay, things are changing around here. Once he got it, right? most of the time he would surprise me. And I was very glad that I gave him the chance to surprise me. And it took this exact skill, this leaning in with curiosity and being like, my brain is telling me that that was a dig, or that was a passive aggressive comment. This is the story. And I want to know what it was going on for you. You know, and that takes a vulnerability to do that. It's scary. It's scary to do that, to share the stories going on for me. And I'm willing to not fully invest myself in the story yet. I'm going to hold back to see if, you know, what's going on for you. And sometimes I was right. Sometimes the story was right. It sucked. But it gave him that opportunity to be like, oh, yeah, crap. I was repeating an old pattern, and I was showing up unconsciously, and thank you for bringing my attention to it. I will be better. Right. And it's just takes tons and tons and tons of those tiny little opportunities, taking those tiny opportunities to build the trust going in the other direction, to where you get to a point where this is so fun. Where, like, when my husband's stressed and he's kind of stomping around the house, maybe trying to find something, and he's a little, you know, short tempered because he's frustrated. He's trying to find this thing. And he comes in and he's short. He's like, hey, where's this thing? Or whatever, you know? And I go, I don't know, man. Right. Because I'm not making it about me. I know he's stressed. My brain is telling, I've trained myself to go, he's stressed, this ain't about me. Right. And so he's like, ah, and he just stomps off. Right. And then he's like, he finds the thing, whatever, and whatever he's doing. And then I can trust him now to, while he's doing the thing and he's calming down, his nervous system's coming down, he's thinking about the interaction. He's like, oh, crap, I was really short with her. I had a mean tone. So he'll come back in and he'll go, hey, earlier I was really short with you, wasn't I? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, I know. And it's just like a nothing burger. It's like, it's nothing, because I know that if I try to solve the problem of his stress while he's trying to solve the problem of finding the thing, it's just going to be like pointless.
Right.
And I know it's not about me, right? He didn't come and call me a name. You know, he was just short with me. Like, I can handle somebody being a little short with me. Especially since it's not all the time. You know? So it's a wonderful place to get to. We didn't start there, but it's a wonderful place to get to where you have that kind of trust. And this is a fun story. We bond over fixing cars together. We fix our car together because we're cheap too. And, you know, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to work on cars, and he's got big hands, so he can't reach into places. And I got these little hands so I can reach into places. And he just couldn't get the thing, couldn't get the thing. And he just threw the water bottle way over there. And I was like, okay, you know, he's just going to have a little tantrum. Fine. And then, I don't know, 30 minutes later, I was working on something. And I threw the tool. You know, I threw the tool. And it went, I didn't throw it far, but it went far enough so that the next time he needed the tool, he was like, where the heck is that tool? You know? And then it was like just barely out of reach. So he had to go like, you know, to get the tool. And as he's reaching to get the tool, he goes, this is really far away. Just so like passive aggressive. This is really far away. And I didn't say anything. I didn't react because I knew it's not about me. Like, it's not about me. I don't have to react to this, right? I don't have to put fuel on this fire. And then moments after that comment, he caught himself and realized, oh yeah, I threw something too. And he goes, kind of like I threw the water bottle. He just said that. I was like, yeah. It's just like all these opportunities that could be fights, and they're just nothing burgers, because we just are committed to trusting each other, that we have each other's best interests in mind, that we also are human, and we all get a little frustrated sometimes. Like if it's a repeated thing where we're getting abused a lot of time, that needs to be addressed, right? That's a pattern of somebody just does not have good tools for coping with stress, and they need better tools, right? They just need better tools. That's it. And that needs to be addressed. Yes. So, this is the first lesson that I teach with all my clients is like, look, we could all handle our emotions in a much more powerful way so that they don't handle us. And that's the letting go technique. That's just, riding the wave of feelings, letting them rise and fall and surrendering to them instead of, oh no, I'm not going to feel this. Right. Or I'm going to project this onto you. Right. And it's so much more efficient, and it keeps relationships together when we can own our feelings and surrender to them. And really, mental health is about increasing our capacity, right? Like I talked about flexibility, that's capacity. We don't want to remove all our triggers, right? I'm cutting you out of my life because I'm protecting my peace. Right? That's removing all your triggers instead of healing your triggers. And healing your triggers is increasing your capacity for tension, for being in the tension that I feel in my body when things are tense between me and another person, without running away, without trying to fix their feelings, right? Just, I can function. I can feel this tension in my body and I can still function. And it's not an easy skill. I tried to intellectualize that one for probably 2 years. It doesn't work. It has to be experienced. So does that answer your question, Kelly?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah.
You have any questions?
Nothing I can think of. I agree with everything. It's harder to put into action than, like you were saying, it's a very easy concept, but actually putting it into action is difficult.
Yeah, it's brain training for sure. And I remember the first time somebody ever told me that, you are in control of your own brain. You're not your brain. You're not your mind, which are two different things, by the way. Mind and brain are different. And you can direct it. And I remember thinking, that is not true. That can't be true. There's no way. Like, I was 19, but like, I could not see how that could possibly be true. And now that I've trained myself, I'm like, yeah, I am in control of my brain. I get to interrupt it and direct it somewhere else. And it feels so good. It feels so empowering. Way better than the disempowering thought that I had that was like, yeah, I'm right. That's not true. So yeah, but it has taken practice. I tell you what, I had one of those, on Facebook, they have those a memory post pops up from 9 years ago. And 9 years ago, we were in the shit. It was, and this memory comes up and I was like, oh, that was so bad. And if you would have told me 9 years ago that we would be where we are now, I would have been like, how? How? But here we are, you invite the Holy Spirit into your relationship and it transforms your relationship to a holy relationship with every single holy instant that you invite the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. So is the mind and the brain thing, is that kind of represented where you kind of respond on autopilot, but even if it's not how you intended to?
Yeah. So
respond? Yeah. Like your logical self says, this isn't how I should act, but you.
Yeah. I call it my higher self.
Yeah.
My higher regulated self, my self that sees the truth, the big capital T truth, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't have time to respond because my nervous system responded first. Right? My conditioned nervous system responded first before I was like, I'm going to put that comment back in my mouth. Mm-hmm. And that's really tough because what that is called high emotional charge. Okay. So if you look at a neuron, right? And a signal travels along the dendrite to the next neuron, right? And through the synapses. And it has to travel that distance to have that cascade of reactions, right? But people with high emotional charge, the signal is already traveled the dendrite almost the whole way, all the time. And so little tiny things set off that reactionary cascade before they have the chance to really arrest that. Those are, it's like complex PTSD people who grew up with lots of uncertainty and unpredictability, and it's really, really hard. And then also, if you're not sleeping well, you've got high emotional charge. You're stressed, right? If you're PMSing, your body, progesterone and estrogen is tanking so fast, your body is stressed. So it is harder to manage negative emotion. It's almost impossible sometimes, right? Sleep, your blood sugar. If your blood sugar is doing this, so is your emotions, right? If you have chronic fatigue because you have some kind of, autoimmune or some disease process, that is putting stress on your body all the time. And so you're going to have emotional charge.
It's like you're going through each member of our family one by one.
Right. So obviously there's a place for grace for all of us to be human, but there has to be also not just like, you're going to get away with this forever, and I'm just going to give you grace forever. Like, efforts to recognize, I know that this is not good for the relationship, and I'm doing what I can to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. And I'm trying experiments, right? Some experiments work out, some don't. But as long as you're trying experiments, trying different ways of managing the tension in your body, managing your diet, your lifestyle, all those things, if you're trying different interventions, then yeah, grace, we have all the grace in the world. Yeah, I can see signs that you're trying. Cool, right? And as long as, my coach says, as long as things feel more good than bad, great, right? And as long as we're moving generally in and upward, right, even clumsily, if we're moving generally in the direction and effort is being made, cool. Then it takes as long as it takes. Like, it took us, after betrayal trauma, we're talking 3 years probably, to feel like, okay, I can stay. I can do this. Like, I can trust this person. I don't have to be thinking all the time, what's he doing? It took time. But it's worth it as long as both people are making, the effort. I think it's totally worth it. I mean, I feel like my marriage is the best thing I have going on right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is so awesome. And he's playing softball tonight, so I'm going to go watch his game.
You have a visitor behind you.
I do. You peeking?
What?
You peeking?
No, just can see that.
I'm using Anna's heels to do model walk down the hall.
You're practicing your model walk? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We have a big mirror at the end of the hallway, so it's perfect for practicing. Well, if you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to stay longer, but if not, then I guess I'll say goodnight.
Sounds
All right.
good. Thanks,
Good
Marianne.
night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.